Hi.
Hello.
First of all, thank you for accepting my invitation after a long shooting day.
Of course.
How did you find Romania this time? Because I know it's not the first time that you are coming to Romania.
I love shooting in Romania. I think it's really one of my favorite places to shoot in the world. You know, the crews are really good, very experienced. The people are experienced. There's some really good actors here. And I think you get a lot of production value that you would not get shooting in the United States or in Canada, especially for low-budget projects. And because, for a number of reasons. One is that the locations, Romania is a much older country. So when you're doing anything where you need those kind of locations, castles, or the feel of older places, it just doesn't exist in the United States or Canada or anywhere in North America because it's just not that old, unless you're doing Westerns. And so that's one thing. The craftspeople are really good, so you get really good artists and designers and cinematographers, and so...
When was the first movie that you did in Romania?
The first movie I did in Romania was in 2011 or 2010.
So not so long ago.
Yeah, not so long ago. It was about 2010, 2011, and it was an action movie called, it was renamed Assassination Games. It used to be called Weapon, but it was a Jean-Claude Van Damme action movie. And I really enjoy shooting here. I've shot in a lot of other places, and because there's a lot of experience. To me, it's the experience of the crew more than anything else. Because I've shot in other places where, yes, you get beautiful locations, and yes, it's lower costs, for example, in Romania, but it really takes you longer to shoot because you can't move as quickly because the crews aren't as experienced. Whereas here, they really are. So.
Well, thank you, and hopefully. The time will pass and will be more professional. I know that you are from Ukraine.
Yes.
When did you leave Ukraine?
My family, we left Ukraine when I was 9 years old, so it was 1977, and now you know my age. But we left. It was at a point when a lot of Soviet Jews were leaving Ukraine and Russia and the Soviet Union at the time.
Do you still remember anything about Ukraine?
A little bit here and there. I was born in Odessa, and I haven't been back to Odessa since we left when I was 9 years old.
Do you consider Ukraine your country?
It's certainly my birthplace. So I identify as being from there. I wouldn't consider it necessarily my homeland, or it's a strange word to use. I wouldn't necessarily even consider my home now, because in a way, because I was a child in several places, I grew up first in Ukraine, or in Soviet Ukraine, which is quite different, and then I grew up in Montreal, Canada. So that, in a way, the formative part of my years were really there from when I was 9.
And how was the difference going from Ukrainian USSR to Montreal, Canada?
It was a different planet. It was a really a completely different world. I mean, also as a child, you do learn. One of the things we learn is yes, people are the same everywhere. But I left Soviet Ukraine, which is Brezhnev in power, and it was a much different situation under the Soviet regime than it is liberal North America, and just the early childhood memories are like the variety of things you could have, or that there wasn't, even as a child I knew that there were certain things that you didn't talk about, that you didn't read, that, I remember we had some relatives who had immigrated to Israel, and once I made some joke to my grandparents at the time about saying to somebody else about, something involving just the word Israel, and I remember being shut down instantly and told never to say that in public. It was a really tough time. Over years you sort of realize, wow, it's very different. It isn't just you have more flavors of ice cream. It's that,
yes.
It's that people don't disappear at night. It's not a perfect society. It's far from it, but it certainly has less, human rights issues than the Soviet Union did at the time.
When was the moment that you decided to become a director? And
I
what made you decide that?
well, I decided to be a theater director when I was about 13 or 14 years old. I went to see a play at school that a teacher of mine had directed. I remember it was Agatha Christie's Witness for the Prosecution, and it was really good, and the students performing in it were really good, and I thought, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to create work like this. And I'm still friends with the teacher. I'm still friends with some of the students that were in that show. And for many, many years, I wanted to be a theater director, and that's all I ever, wanted to do. And I worked very hard, and I worked in theater, and both as a director and lighting designer. And I got into film completely by a fluke. It was after graduate school. I just gotten my master's degree in theater directing because I thought, if I need a master's degree because if I need to teach, and so, but then, I was going to be the assistant director on a big Broadway show, and it got postponed. I needed to find work, and I didn't have a green card at the time, so I had to find work in the U.S. I didn't want to leave New York, and I wanted to find work that related to theater because I needed to make money for a gap of a few months in the summer. So I started working for a small Canadian film company, basically like reading scripts and helping them out in the office, and they said to me, "Oh, what would it take to have you stay on full time and not go back to your theater job?" And at the time, I really wanted to have a green card to stay in the States because I was a Canadian citizen but not a U.S. citizen. So I said, "Hey, if you guys help me get a green card, I'll stay." And they said, "Oh, no problem," because I don't think they knew exactly what that meant, and what the expense and how long it takes to do that. And that little Canadian film company that had their office in New York, became Lionsgate, and so I became, they were my film school. I became kind of the production executive they sent on different film sets, and from that I started producing, and I did that for about 8 years, and then I realized I really missed the more creative aspects of directing, working with actors, and then they gave me my first chance to direct a movie about 8 years later, and that was about 2002, and I ended up having my first child and my first movie to direct at the same time, which I wouldn't recommend to anybody.
How many movies did you do?
As a director, I've directed now, but I think I'm on number 18, something like that.
Do you ever watch your movies?
I do. I watch my movie. It takes me a really long time to watch my movies because I'm incredibly critical of what I do, and so honestly, I hate most of my movies until some time has passed, because it's not that I hate them. The work of the actors is really great. I just always find the things that I couldn't fix or the mistakes I made or the first things I see, and it honestly takes me about a good 6 months to a year to go, that wasn't so bad.
What's your favorite movie that you ever done?
Oh, that's a hard one. It depends, 'cause I've done different kinds of movies, so I can say, my favorite, ghost movie or horror movie I've done, it's actually really hard. It's hard. That's a tough one, because, I still enjoy much of my first movie, Cube Zero, which was a science fiction horror film. I still enjoy much of, They Wait, which is this ghost film I did in Vancouver. I did a few movies with Jean-Claude Van Damme, or action films, and I really enjoyed working on Pound of Flesh, which was a movie I directed in China a few years ago, in China and a bit in Vancouver. It's funny, I end up liking something about most of them, but I'm one of those people where the work is never really finished, so I always find, if I had the perfect schedule or the perfect script, or I had time to write the perfect script, and I never, because I work in the low budget world, and so you always feel like, I wish I had time. Because I think that's, a lot of filmmaking often comes down to that, is that you really have to fit into the box of the time you have. If you're making a movie with somebody else's money, and it's not just your hobby, if it's a professional project, unless you're financing it yourself, you rarely get the chance to go, let's just get a few more days, and, so I have time to, reshoot something, or,
yes.
So to me, that's, so the answer to your question is I really love something about a lot of my movies, but it's rarely ever a complete, like, this was the perfect work. I just don't think I've done that yet. It's never like...
What are you more inspired to shoot? Because I know you shot horror movies, action movies, love stories. What is your favorite kind of movies?
Well, you know, one of the things I realized what I enjoy about doing different kinds of movies is, you know, once you've done a few horror films in a row, you're like, oh, it would be great to do a comedy. So, you know, right now, you know, I'm working on a kind of a romantic comedy. And so right now I'm going, oh, I'd love to do a thriller or a horror film. But I'm sure once I do that, I'd be like, oh, I need some comedy in my life. I enjoy smart thrillers. I have nothing against, you know, what we call genre films. Mm-hmm. It's just that I like ones that have a smart story or an imaginative story, or that they're very character driven. Because I find, for example, I love action movies, but if it's just a bunch of fighting, I'm not that interested in it, because I think about, you know, just the fighting being good holds your interest for, you know, 20 minutes, half an hour. 45 minutes is really good, but not for, you know, 2 hours or an hour and a half. And the story has to be good. And for me, what I mean by story being good, it just means that there's surprises for the audience, and that's actually very hard, because we are all inundated with storytelling in so many media forms, from social media to movies to television to Amazon to Netflix. You know, we're throwing stories in commercials, right? And so we're very story savvy. So it's much harder to surprise people because they get it all the time. And so that's one. And for me, the other thing is that if the plot is driven by interesting characters that really do have goals they solve, and they're really human people, and where you see both sides of people, and it's a lot harder to do than you think.
You did some movies with Jean-Claude Van Damme. How difficult is to work with him?
He's not really, you know, I don't think he's difficult at all. I mean, I heard, you know, it's funny, before I worked with him, I heard like him, like many other sort of famous people that I've worked with, you know, you hear sort of horror stories because that's what people like to talk about, it's gossip. And then you work with a guy and it's not true at all. And he shows up for work, he's a very good actor. I think one thing that's sometimes unfair is that I think people, you know, because Van Damme's work is so physical in the martial arts, you know, they expect him to do at age 50 what he did when he was 20. And
okay, but he did a few years ago that commercial with the two trucks.
Right. He's very physically able.
Did he do it?
I'm sorry?
Did he do it?
I mean, he did the split. I mean, well, I'll tell you something. He does those splits. I didn't do the commercial, but in Pound of Flesh.
Yeah, but you know him. This is
right. But in Pound of Flesh, literally, you can see him do the splits in a scene where like a car pulls him and his legs get pulled apart. So there's, you know, people doubt that he can do that. They should go and watch that. Literally, we kept the shots in the movie for that very reason. It was very funny. In Pound of Flesh, there's a scene that does that, and the only reason it exists is because I was sitting one day with a fight choreographer, John Salviti, in a coffee shop in LA, and we were coming up with this fight sequence, and the producer called and he said, you know, this whole thing happened with the commercial with the splits. The buyers, you know, the international salespeople really want to see Van Damme do splits in the movie. So then we're like, okay, how do we do that? And John came up with a really great idea for how that could happen, and we did it. So he can really do the splits. You know, how they did it with trucks.
We have to watch that movie.
Yes, well, I'd watch Pound of Flesh. It's a fun film. But I think that you know, I don't know how they do it with trucks. And I mean, I wasn't, you know, in the commercial. He's incredibly physically fit. I think, you know, the thing with Van Damme, I'm glad he's doing an Amazon comedy right now called Jean-Claude Van Johnson, and it's kind of a parody of himself, and it's a brilliant movie because he's a very good comic actor. You know, he's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Like when Schwarzenegger did Kindergarten Cop. It was brilliant because everybody thought, you know, oh, he's just an action guy.
Oh, that's a surprise.
He's very funny, and I think Van Damme is very funny too. You know, I think people really will. But like everybody else, I find often in film and television, people get typecast in boxes. Whereas when I was working in the theater, that really didn't. It wasn't. You know, nobody came to me and said, oh, you know, Ernie, you know, we see that you did a lot of Shakespeare. You know, can you also do a modern comedy? And well, when you train as a director, you don't train to just do Shakespeare. Okay. You know, whereas in film, because it's a medium, you can just go see copies of things. People just expect you to do one kind, you know, do only one thing. So that's why I enjoy doing different.
What's your favorite movie? not directed by you?
I have a few. You know, one of my favorite movies is 12 Monkeys, the Terry Gilliam movie. I think he's a brilliant guy. Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies. You know, The Godfather is one of my favorite movies. There's a Russian film called Burnt by the Sun that is one of my favorite movies, and it was about the Stalin era, and so I have a few different ones. It's almost like if I'm in your mood for comedy, like it's when people ask me what's my favorite music, you know, it's like my feeling, do I want sad music or happy music?
Well, usually you have a top 5 or a top 3.
Yeah, so I gave you a few. I mean, like I said,
What did you advise to the young directors or people that want to become directors?
It's a few. I mean, sometimes I find advice is dangerous because it's very different for different people. You know,
What helped you?
Well, and what I would advise other people is this. I would say one thing that helps is if you write, like if you figure out a way to be able to write your own scripts, I think that helps a lot because professionally, when you're getting paid to direct, it's much harder for you to get taken off a project you've written yourself. Because if you ever need sort of movie stars in it or people who are known, they're more likely to accept you as a first-time director if you've written the material. Also, you know, writing helps you learn storytelling. I would also say, you know, especially given how easy it is to get equipment today and how easy it is to actually distribute your work to people today, I would say just make short movies, make movies. I mean, it's about training for the craft, you know, talking about it is all great, but you have to sort of do it, because I think one of the things that people have a problem with in storytelling is it's something done through time, and so you know, if you want to direct feature-length films or television, you know, of a length, you kind of have to not just do shorts. You have to figure out, you know, well, how do I hold an audience's attention? How do I manipulate the story through time, through all that time? Because I think the audience's attention is very different in different parts of the movie. There's a I forget what it's called. There's like a Japanese concept that is maybe getting the words on. It's a johaku, which is like beginning, middle, and end, which means your attention. You could do certain things in the beginning of a story that will take longer, that you would never do in the middle. You would never certainly do at the end, because by the end they want it. You know, you've got to wrap it up. And so I would say also for new filmmakers, try and spend time in edit rooms, because really to see what is the material you need and how you tell a story in the edit is really important, because I find that as a filmmaker, your perception of a scene on set is very different than it is in the edit room. Because on set, you're watching live theater, you're watching a performance, right? And so all, you know, long takes, and you know, you've got a crew watching it too and other actors, and so you think that something works without needing the extra angles. Then you get in the edit room and your attention span is completely different because you're not watching it live. There's no energy that's live. So you're really watching it just on a screen, and you're like, oh God, like why didn't I get 4 other angles? Because it's boring after 5 seconds. So it's very, you know, I think that experience is incredibly important, sitting in edit rooms and just figuring out, you know, what does it take to put a scene together? Like when people talk about somebody's point of view of telling a story, what does that really mean? Like, practically, like you have a scene and you want to tell, you know, you have a certain energy about it, where you put the camera. And if you do that, well, how do you really show other characters, the relationships between characters? And it's not something that's really instinctive to most people. It's like... It's
something that you should study.
It's something you should study and really see it work.
Because the practice is...
Right, and make mistakes. I mean, that's the whole thing, you know, is that everybody wants perfection. It's like 90% of it is mistakes that you make that you don't do again.
Sometimes mistakes are the ones that are...
Absolutely. You know, another teacher of mine, Anne Bogart, in theater taught us that, you know, it's to look for the mistakes. Like in the mistakes is where the thing happens, where the energy is real, because it's not planned for. It's just really human. It's a real connection. And
the last question is, have you ever been to Moldova? And if yes or if no, what do you know about Moldova?
Well, I know Moldova's next to Ukraine, where I was born. I've never been to Moldova, but I'd be very happy to go, and I like going to new places. And of course, you know, I have, a personal sort of fascination with places that used to be part of the Soviet machine, and and I've met a number of Moldovan people who are wonderful people, and it would be great to visit. It would be great to do a film there, and I like to learn about new places. So I certainly would be happy to go
You
there.
will be welcomed to Moldova.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.